Throughout the development process, you'll probably be very familiar with this screen. You're going to see errors come up all over the place as you're developing something. You make a typo, or something isn't working properly, or a gem just doesn't integrate well. So you'll get really familiar with the screen, and it's nice because it tells you what line and what file that it's in, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. You can get an environment dump, and it gives you a little bit of information that helps you go figure out what was wrong. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how we can improve this process to do a whole lot more work quickly by going through these errors without having to deal with this and jumping back into our code and back and forth and printing out variables in the console or whatever. So the gem we want to talk about today is called Better Errors. And Better Errors is a replacement for this red and white screen that we were just on for Rails and other rack applications. So instead, you'll come and get this sort of this error screen, and it has a lot of different features. So it breaks down everything that happened in your application, and you can go through that. So you can see into the internals of what Rails was doing before it got to the code that crashed. So it's extremely helpful for building software and debugging errors, and we're going to go talk about installing that next. So you'll want to use this in almost every single application that you have, but you need to be extremely careful that this only is available in development mode. If you make this available in production, anyone could run any Ruby code on your server, which is very, very bad. So people could delete anything they wanted if this was enabled in production. So I'm going to go walk you through this. And the first step is going to be going over to rubygems.org, and we'll look up Better Errors, and then grab the gem file line, and we'll go to our gem file inside of our application. We'll add Better Errors. And the other gem that we want to add is Binding of Caller. And this allows us to inspect the variables inside the application when it crashes. And this is really the tool that makes that screen so helpful. So we'll come back to our gem file and paste in Binding of Caller, but we want to be extremely careful that we put these in the development group so that they're only available in development mode. And then we can go back to our terminal and run bundle. And if we come back to our Rails server, you want to restart that. And now, if you refresh your Rails application, you'll get the new error screen. So the Binding of Caller bit of this allows you to type here in this command, so you can run any Ruby commands just like you would with the IRB. So you can say hello, and it gives you proper Ruby command line here. So here we can go and see, we can inspect the books variable, and we have a relation. I don't have any books in the database, so there's none. And then you can also replicate the error with current user. So I can inspect everything that's going on, and that's why the Binding of Caller piece here is so important. In the regular Better Errors, it allows you to jump back down, all the way down the stack inside of Rails itself to learn how this whole request has started and how it actually got to the point where it was. So you can see that for a while it's doing work inside of the books controller, but before that it starts to do active support things, and then you can even get into the routing and any of the rack middleware before that, like the cookies in the session store. But the really the piece that we're concerned with is the ones in the application frames, because that means that code here that went wrong was inside of our application. If you're running into a problem with a gem, you'll be able to go into all frames and see the code that was inside your application that might have caused the gem to break. And you can kind of inspect the gem and see what it's looking for and why your code may have broken. So better errors is something that I would recommend in absolutely every application that you build in Rails. And I'm sure that in the next few episodes, we're going to take a look at some things that will break, and we'll be able to inspect what went wrong using this tool.